Alafia, where in the world is Yeyefini? Yeyefini is at the monthly Ancestral celebration. And the Ancestral celebration is, of course, our opportunity to give thanks for our ancestors and the good and the things that they have done for us. Here is the shrine that we have erected, and you can erect, that we have erected. And today's ceremony, as you hear in the background, the water sprinkle went off just as we started. So obviously the water that we had on the table was not enough. So the water that we have now is more than just the 7 glasses that we had, and the food and the pictures that everyone has placed and brought photos of their families. That water was enough. So you see we have a sprinkler system that's going on. So I guess the water that we're having is celebration of the water that we are going to be pouring libation and doing for the entire diaspora. Welcome. Our celebration today, this is the third for the year, because according to the reading, the spiritual consultation that I did on January the 1st, 2017, stated that we should honor our ancestors every month, our community ancestors, for those who fought for, who died for, and who are living through their descendants, so that the diaspora will find peace, but more than that, healing, and to connect to what it is and how it is that people of African descent celebrate and acknowledge our heritage and our culture. So thank you for coming today, and the guests are here. I am going to pour the libation and begin, and this is an attempt to giving you an opportunity in your community, because this is not just for me. The consultation, the diagnosis was that if we pour libation in our communities, in our respective communities around the world, at the same time, on the third Sunday of every month, whatever time you want to. Today, this time we're doing it at 2 o'clock. And our intention is to be able to keep it at 2 o'clock. But whatever time it is, and my time here is Eastern Standard Time. So wherever you are in the world, come together, honor your ancestors of the diaspora. That was the consultation for the diaspora, because as people of color who are struggling right now for respect, for recognition, to show the value for the contributions that have been done, this is an opportunity to celebrate the ancestors and to remind them and remind us that they have value and they have worth. And so thank you so much for coming. As we begin, gather, please everyone gather, as we pour libation and call the ancestors. And as I showed you, we have with us food, the photos of our ancestors, and the types of meals that they like, the food that they like. And before we begin, perhaps we could ask, why is it important to each of us that's here this celebration? So perhaps you could ask. You can stand up. And ask, why is it important to you to celebrate today?
Why is it important to you to celebrate today?
It's important to celebrate the ancestors because we give honor to them, because without them we would not be. And so we have to give honor to from whence we came and those whose shoulders we stand on, whose blood runs in our veins. So that's why it's important to give honor to the ancestors to me. Okay.
It is very important to me to celebrate this because it is a reminder to never forget what has gone before me and what my responsibility is to continue what they started. So this is it, very important to me.
Anybody else want to speak? Why are you here? Why are you here?
It is important for me to be here to continue the legacy and the baton that was passed to me so that I'm accountable to myself, my family, and my community to always love first, uplift, and serve relentlessly.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah, just speak as to why it's important to you to honor your ancestors.
It's important to me to honor my ancestors because without them, I would not be present today. And their sacrifices have given me a blessed life. And this is my way of saying thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'll walk over here.
We are doing a live feed. Why is it important to you to honor the ancestors?
Why is it important? Because they order my footsteps. And Daddy loved bananas. I'm coming from an event, so I just brought a banana. Ashe.
Did you want to say something?
Why is it important to honor our ancestors? Because that is our foundation, where we come from. And we can't know where we're going unless we stand on the shoulder of our ancestors. So we should always honor our gods.
So I guess the ancestors wanted more water than glasses. And it was interesting that just when the water started, it never touched the kitchen. It went under. More libation. Everybody spoke that wanted to speak? Somebody hold it? If you want to, if you don't want to, you can leave the camera. It's okay. Only two. I let you two. One or two. Two la room. Mojuba olofi. Mojuba olorum. Mojuba olorum are. Olorum alabo sudai. Olorum alabo sudai. Olorum elemi olorum elemi. Mojuba kadamo kia kadamo kia ye odu ni mo kia odu na. Mojuba baba mojuba ya mojuba ye mojuba ara mojuba baba wana londo ara mojuba ya lesa baba loso boko la ba ni lesa le kare iba ile ba. Iba ye ba ye turu bobo la balagba. Iba ye ba ye turu motoku. Iba ye ba ye turu ndelaye. You can call your ancestors out nice and loud so they can hear you. ní ìlera fún àwa ìrànlọ́wọ́ ìwọ́pọ̀ fún ìyàwó afẹ́ṣẹ́ lónìí ó àdúgbàyé. Mọ́júbà afẹ́fẹ́ ikú, mọ́júbà afẹ́fẹ́ ikú, mọ́júbà afẹ́fẹ́ ikú, mọ́júbà afẹ́fẹ́ ikú. Ikú o, èyí ti lọ síjọba ìbùkún. Ikú o, èyí ti lọ síjọba ìbùkún. Arabara, 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 egungun, arabara, 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 egungun, arabara, arabara, babalo, arabara, yalo, arabara, egungun, arabara, 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 egungun, arabara, dupuelo, egun, arabara, egun, arabara, egun, arabara, egungun, arabara, egungun, arabara, egun, arabara, egun, arabara, egungun, arabara, egungun, arabara, 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 egungun, arabara, 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 egungun, arabara, dupuelo, giving thanks, Mother, Father God, for this opportunity for us to be gathered here in Lonio. Today we come in homage to the ancestors, known and unknown, who, because of their efforts, we're here today. We come to you with the foods that you like, with the petitions of our hearts. We come to you and we give thanks for this community coming together. We give thanks for the world coming together to honor the ancestors of the diaspora. The things that are happening in our community, ancestors have happened before, and we always rally together. Now we're asking you as soldiers, as warriors of spirit, go forth, bring our community together, bring our community together, bring our community to arm and to fight and to glorify the heritage and the culture of our ancestors. We're giving thanks, Ariku, for each and every one of us that's here and the extended energy that we're sending from this location in Dania Beach, Florida, to the state of Florida, to the East Coast, to the entire United States, to Central America, to South America, to the Caribbean, to North America, to the entire world as we expand into the light, into the light, into the light, and we go globally as we heal our community, we heal our world. Ancestors, we come in humility and thanksgiving at this opportunity and remembering and giving thanks and homage that we did not forget the rituals. It is very important for us ancestors, for us to know that you are happy and you are pleased because we have not forgotten the rituals. The rituals that we must do and we continue to do with no apology. Ancestors, we ask you now to come and show us and infuse through us the presence of all that is and all that you have been and all that we have the potential to be as your children, as your bloodstream, as your manifestation. Ancestors, we call on you today. Ancestors, we're asking you to come, partake of this food and infuse us. And as we speak and share about our ancestors, let you know, let us know, let each other know that you have not been forgotten. So that we are marking a path for ourselves, so that we will not be forgotten. Ancestors, we come in humility and thanksgiving, and we honor you this day. Awaki egungun loni o, awaki egungun loni o, loni o. Awaki egungun loni o, awaki egungun loni o. Awaki egungun loni o, awaki egungun loni o, loni o, loni o. Awaki egungun loni o, awaki egungun loni o. Awaki egungun loni o, awaki egungun loni o, loni o, loni o. Awaki egungun loni o. kie gungo loni o. Awa kie gungo loni o. Awa kie gungo loni o. Loni o. Walk around. Awa kie gungo loni o. Awa kie gungo loni o. Awa kie gungo loni o. Ancestors, we're asking if you are pleased with the presentation, with the prayer that we had, then we will proceed and to talk about you, bring you forth not only in memory, but in our tears and in our sharing and our laughter and our joy. Share. Ago, ancestors. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know, but some of you, but all of you I know through the people who are here, directly or indirectly. People that I've just known and just met, their energy, of course, has always been with me. Because remember that in our transatlantic, and even before that, in centuries and in siglos, centuries before, we always said that we will meet each other again. So we're here. So for that we give thanks. And so we offer you all of the foods and the things that you like at this third annual, because this is the third for the year. Because this second, right? This is February. Second, the year's already going fast. Second celebration that I will bear witness to here in Florida. The first one I did was in Ghana, and the second one I did was in Nigeria, and now I'm here back home doing it here at home. So we give thanks to you, ancestors, that we have not forgotten the rituals, and that you're giving me this opportunity to break bread with you and just let you know, until I die, until my last breath, my dedication is for everyone to know the beauty, the power, the love, the history, and the wisdom of African heritage.
Ashe.
Ancestors, we ask that each and every one of us present that our Ori bear witness to the things that we're doing. And to the people who are not here and those who wanted to come but are unable to come, we ask you, work together, be real.
Ashe.
Hey, say yes. No need to ask. Y'all know we happy. Ashe. You see that way the camera girl is out.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this time, I guess we can bring them up, make them alive, and talk about them. How's that? That sounds good? Yeah. I'm going to start. I got some big people here. And I'm not going to cry. These here are warriors. And that's what this whole ceremony is about. Because we can do ceremonies for our ancestors, and we do all kinds of misas and stuff like that for our own elevation. But this is the time for us to come in as a community. Bring forth those warrior spirits that we knew, that they stood for nothing but justice when it comes to people of the diaspora. That's who we want to come and do these ceremonies throughout the world. As we're doing them, we want you to celebrate these people who are warriors, because we want them to come and mobilize. and cut down on the murders of our children in our community and the raping of our mothers and seeing our mothers crying over their babies slain in the street and the injustice and not being accountable by the police and whoever has the authorities are. That's what this ritual is about. It's not about you honoring your own ancestors, because for us to be here, our ancestors are warriors. But for us as a community globally, we have to now call them, just like our ancestors did in Haiti. Our ancestors gathered together in the night and called. That's why Haiti was the first republic in the Americas. Call them at night. Come ancestors. These invaders are trying to kill us. That's what we do. That's what we do. This is our weapon. This is our weapon. It's good to march. It's good to talk. It's good to strike. All of that is working towards the higher goal, which is to call the spirits together. So the crying that we do and the frustration that we have and the things that we feel powerless to do, call the ancestors and they manifest. They will manifest because they are so happy to come and show. And the word here is that definitely after you leave here, look for the next month, this month, to see how your ancestors will manifest. And I saw it in both places. In Nigeria, I saw it as we did it, and in Ghana as we did it. Okay? So, let me begin here, over here. This is Oba Osejimen Adefumi the First, who was the first African American to be initiated into the Lukumi system. And he was the first one that started the movement that today that we embrace as African Americans in the Lukumi system. The founder of the African village of Oyotunji, that had the balls, the courage to say, you know what, without land, you don't have anything. You don't have anything, because the one thing that shows your power and that you have continuity is that you have to have your own land. And so that's why we built the village. And in building the village of Oyotunji, it created an energy that said, we can do this without grants. We can do this as just black people. And moving down there and clearing the woods, and as see Ms. Toshiba is smiling because she lived there as one of the founders myself. That's what we did. As a matter of fact, I got the award for chopping down the most trees as a woman. Yes. Take pride in that one. And so, what we did in Oyotunji, we set forward to say, you know what? We can do this. What we did was, Efuntola studied everything that had to do with Yoruba tradition and set up a kingdom that still stands today in South Carolina. And for that, we have to honor him. If we're going to honor ourselves as people who are in this faith and in this religion, and we're saying that we're doing, and we have the argument whether we are traditionalists or Lukumi or Santeria and all of this, who had the opportunity, the ability, and the courage to set up and says, we're going to do this with no apology. In the middle of Harlem, this is what we're going to do. And then we move to South Carolina. So this, always remember, Oba Efuntola Adefumi the First. This man here was Efuntola's first godson, who happens to be my godfather, priest of Obatala. Maurice Irving, known as Orishamola Awolowo. History. This man spoke Yoruba without any English accent, never been to Africa. That commitment. Magnificent artist, magnificent visionary. This man here is one of the unsung heroes of this tradition of African spirituality. This man here, beautiful, beautiful soul, my wonderful Oumbi Pedro Loinas, my godfather in Pado. Some are priests in all types of different types of things, because it's just evolution. Nifa, Palo, Cyrus said, Islam, Christianity, it's all relative, because it's all about opening another door, not closing that, opening another door and bringing all of your experiences to wherever you are. So this is my godfather in Palo, and passed at the age of 93. Beautiful, beautiful man. He was initiated when he was 3. Wow, and he's a piece of a boo. He's a piece of a boo. Very, very warm person. So these are the warriors that I call. When something is happening in our community and I see that disenfranchisement of our people, and I feel like I want to cry, I rallied them. I called them. I said, okay, it's that time again. Because all of us have been through it, you know? He's been through Cuba, Batista and Fidel and what happened to black people. And this one has been through coming from New York and following his godfather just on the concept of I'm going to build a village. He followed. And I came with him. We established the village in 1971 as priests and priestesses, just building it based on what we know about our ancestors. And I call on this one, anytime it requires courage, all he says, baby doll, we can do this. That's all he said, baby doll, let's do it. Man delivered babies, delivered horses, delivered all of our kids. I mean, showed the world that polygamy works. You know, it's just, our heritage is just so rich. So I wanted to honor them today because when I was in Ghana and Nigeria, I didn't get a chance because I didn't have their pictures. So I want to do that today. Thank you so much. Ashe. So whoever wants to start, we can start right there. Just go around. Yeah, let's light a candle. I could just hear them say, Yeyefini. That's one thing with Yeyefini, she can follow through. So let's light the candle, and if it lights, good. If it doesn't, it's fine because the essence is there. And we're lighting that for my little ancestors. You want to go first? Yeah. Stand right over there so we can see. So we're teaching as we're doing.
Okay, so this is my Baba, Aya, and this is like a sacred moment because Amala's here and she knew him. And so whenever someone knows Daddy, it's like when I speak, it makes sense because he was a force, and a very spiritual force at that, and his strength manifested as he transitioned in a way that was so expansive that it brought me to African spirituality. And so how I look at his transition is that it was necessary for my evolution. And I feel like an extension of him. Like a new person. I discovered a part of me that I didn't know existed. And so I have been commanded to honor him in my existence now in a way that I never imagined. I have not the words. And I think with saying that, I don't have to say too much about who he was and what he did. He taught people, and he taught people how to love themselves. And he taught people of color to love their skin. And if you had a gift, he taught you to love your gift. And I feel honored to come from his ancestry. And I feel humbled I feel like he orchestrated, I'm not going to cry, but I feel like he orchestrated my position and orchestrated Yeyefini's position in my life. And I feel every day that I have to listen to the command that if I don't, it's not going to be good. It won't be pretty because I feel him more now than when he was in that body. So it speaks volumes to my very existence and what I need to do to evolve in this 3D reality, right? In this 3D reality, because this is not much.
Right.
But we have a part to play while we stand here, right? Yeah. So I think there's big things for me because I'm listening to the call.
Give us his full name.
Lloyd. Oh, he would say Lloyd in the Queen's English. Joseph Bowers, Panamanian, a child of a Panamanian mother. Panama. Panama and Jamaican, but African, coming through, and with the Africans who settled in Colombia, his mother, her parents were from Colombia. So and I didn't know any of this until his transition. So
that's awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Así que tenemos que hablar en español.
Sí, yo hablo español mucho.
Sí.
Mi abuelita habla español.
Para los ancestros de Panamá.
Sí.
Así se hace.
Gracias. Slip out at some point.
Oh yeah, light your candle. And like I said, if it lights and it goes out, it's not important because the essence and the energy is there. Because what I'll do is I'll ask what we're going to do with the candles after. If we burn it tonight or something. Okay.
Tilapia.
Alafia.
Today I want to introduce you to my aunt and uncle, the late Reverend Nina Estelle Robinson, who was my mother's, Whitaker Robinson, she's telling me to make sure I put that main name in there, who was my mother's sister, and her husband, James Lee Robinson. And they were like grandparents to me because my aunt helped raise my mother. She was much older than her. And so I don't remember my grandparents, but I remember them always being there, and we were raised to be very close to them. And one of the most amazing things about the two of them, and the reason I'm talking about them together, is they were truly what we talk about today as soulmates, because they married young. And they worked through all the issues that, you know, people go through in relationships. And I always thought, oh, it was just perfect. You get married, you live together, and you just have this wonderful thing. And it wasn't until I was grown myself that she started telling me, girl, you just don't know. But, you know, you don't hear those things when you're young. And so I was like, what? Y'all went through what? He did what? You know, that kind of thing. And so, you know, as I came of age, she showed me, you know, how you go through and why I could see them the way they were, because they had worked through and lived through all of that commitment. And my aunt was called into ministry in her early 20s, and she was a prophetess, an evangelist, and a minister and a pastor. And my uncle, when she was receiving messages from Spirit that this was her destiny, she was trying to resist. And he came to her one day. He had a visitation. He said, whatever you need to do, we're going to do it. Because he didn't want those people coming back telling him what needed to happen. And so he was behind her 100%. And it was in the early 20s that this black woman not only built her own church, but she raised every dime of it herself, because she was in the AME Zion Connection, and those men would not help her at all. They did all this stuff to help the men build their churches, and they'd let her be an evangelist, and they would let her be a minister and all that kind of stuff. But when the Spirit said it was for her to have her own church, they didn't give her not one penny. And so she worked the two of them together, and people that came and supported, and she taught, and she cooked fish dinners, and she, you know, shucked for, you all know, you know, she sold dinners, made ice cream, you know, did whatever was necessary to build that church. And the church flourished, and she helped many, many people. And the crazy thing about it was that they had the nerve, the audacity, that the bishop came to her funeral, and the day after the funeral was Sunday morning, he sat in her pulpit and asked for the deeds to the church, because she paid that church off. And all while she was living, they would not dare ask her, because they knew they never helped her. Never helped her. And the day after she was put in the grave, he had the audacity to stand in her pulpit and ask for the deeds to the church. Now, if I had been a different kind of person, that wouldn't have gone down, but it is what it is. So the thing is that we, you know, many times growing up, and I was raised very close to her, because my mother, you know, we had boys. I was the only girl. So I was very close to mine. I spent a lot of time with her, and she taught me and groomed me. And it wasn't until I came into African spirituality, which was not until my 40s, and was told that I was to go towards the priesthood. I'm like, y'all have got to be kidding. This is no way. But as it evolved, I realized why I was raised to be close to her, because it's like, oh my gosh, the things that I witnessed, the things that she taught me, the things that I experienced was all building up for this day. And even to the point of my godmother, Yeyefini, is so much like her, and they never even met. And people say, oh my gosh. It's just amazing. So I just give thanks to the spirit of my Aunt Nina, as we called her, and Uncle James, who stood steadfast, and no matter what needed to be done, he was always there with her, by her side, until the day that he died. And I'm so thankful and grateful to have been privileged to know them and to be raised.
Ashe. Ashe.
While we're waiting for the next person, let's add a little more intrigue and interest to this, is that one of the misas, or the ceremonies that we do before initiation in my system, it came that Aunt Nina found me for their family. So it was easy to understand, oh wow, how did you come in? Because y'all had someone else that had been doing work for you and said that they would find someone. And the people that did the ceremony didn't know anything about that. They didn't know. They says, Aunt Nina, you have this like old lady that when she found Yeyefini for you. And so the relationship that Fulaya myself has is that kind of thing where she has been through an evangelist, being with an evangelist, working with her. And so with me and you working, it's a blessing for Aunt Nina to do that for us, because when I wake up and I say, oh, Spirit says, let's do this. And you say, well, we were going to do this. No, I was going to do this. And when you look, it works out, you know? So the trust of trusting, not me, but trusting Spirit is because of their guidance. And for that, I give thanks.
Because she didn't do anything without Spirit. You know? And one more thing, since you brought that up, it made me remember, we always had somebody doing rituals for us, readings and rituals, even though she was in the Christian church. That was the private part behind the scenes. And she always taught us that we always have to have somebody looking over you spiritually. And so there were all these different people through the years. So that's why even after she left us in the body, she always took care of us and made sure we got to the right people. She brought Yeye. And I knew a couple of other priests before I knew Yeye, but I know, no, you can do this for me and you can do that for me. But when I met her, it was like, oh, okay. Now we got it.
Okay. Yeah, that's in the spirit, because I was not looking for godchildren. Trust me. I'd be like, oh, no, not this year, not this year. And y'all know that I'd be like, run in. Yeah, but thank you so much for sharing that. You know, I feel Aunt Nina's spirit. That's why I just
And I was going to talk about somebody else, and I couldn't find their picture.
Aunt Nina
It
said
was her like,
me.
because last time I talked about another ancestor.
I should. So anybody want to go next? Who wants to go?
This is
Thank you.
sort of one family. I'm going to start with this one. This is my great-grandmother. Her name is Frances, because they took away, try not to cry, they took away her indigenous Carib name, and they beat her mercifully. That's why she's dressed the way she's dressed, to cover all the wounds on her body. And she was a healer. She would make different herbs in Grenada, in the Caribbean, to heal people. And the same slave masters would have to come to her and get her in the night to heal their own family. And this is her two children, Aunt Trina, my great aunt, my great uncle, Bamboos, and this is her other daughter, Anne May, who's my grandmother. And this is my grandfather, Anne May's husband.
Let's get Rush Aya.
So Anne May and Marcus Forrester became husband and wife. The land that my grandmother and my grandfather stands on is the land that we still own today. And the land that he stands on, his mother, who we don't have a picture of because it was destroyed in 1956 with the hurricane, her name is Julie Bridgman. And she and her mother were slaves on this very plantation. And he vowed
to own the land when slavery ended in the Caribbean. And this is their daughter, my aunt Eileen, my mother's sister, and her husband Malcolm Ojas. Malcolm Ojas is who Malcolm X is named after, because Malcolm X is his cousin and his mother. And my aunt and my uncle is the one whose house I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and they mentored me through that whole process. So this is all one family. My father is not here because I didn't have a separate picture from my mother because they're together. I didn't. She's still alive, so I didn't want to bring that picture. So this is my story. So without them, I wouldn't be here today.
And that's why you're a healer, is because you inherited that gift. So thank you so much for sharing that. Ashe. Anybody else want to come up?
Alafia, I'd like to share this photo of my father, Lauren Charles Lovely. My father was an educator. The unique story about him is by the time he was 6 years old, he picked cotton in Georgia, but his family moved to Pensacola, Florida. So before he died, he had a master's degree in education. He was a mathematician. He definitely was a warrior. When I watched the movie Hidden Figures, I could relate to that movie so well because I grew up with a father who was always thinking ahead. When he finished college, FAMU, Florida A&M University, he was offered jobs to be an engineer, but he turned down those jobs because he had a wife and a baby on the way, which was me. So he went back home to Pensacola, Florida, where he worked near NAS, the base, and then he would substitute teach on the side. They put him on a waiting list to go and be an engineer. But he stayed there because the racial tensions were so high in Pensacola that he and another man from another culture helped calm racial tensions at Escambia High School. So when you say we're coming together because of our ancestors, because of the warriors, I think about my father. I think about the times that we're living in now with Black Lives Matter and the racial tensions. I was the oldest child in the family, so he was an activist. I would go to political meetings with him as a child and just watch the adults and how they took care of their communities. And sometimes the meetings were held in our living room. I watched the community come together when they would support each other in getting jobs and equity because they would train and coach and support and groom each other. He worked as a high school administrator through an alternative program, Beggs Educational Program. My natural godfather had that school first, but because the community stuck together, my daddy became the next administrator for that school. And what that school did, it looked at those youth that they call at risk, which we know those are our kids, our community. So he created programs for boys to learn how to be a mechanic, girls to learn how to cook. Even teenage girls that got pregnant in high school, they had a SAIS's program where they could still come to school and their babies could be in the daycare center. All of that was at his school. They watched that model. They even gave him 5 programs through the military bases in Escambia County, through NAS and Corey Fields. Sorry, Daddy, all this technology jumping over your head, okay.
And that's why you're such an amazing principal.
Ashe.
You are so committed and working with children who are at risk.
That is my passion. But the beauty about his program, Governor Childs, before he died, worked with my father. They did a grant and created a model in the state of Florida. So there are many alternative ed programs throughout Florida. But my dad and his crew was the one that wrote that model for the state. It started out on a campus that was like what we call portable cities. And so the news media covered it because they wanted to know how effective could this program be with students coming to school to learn a trade, learn a vocation so they could give back to the community. That school still stands today. It was so, they even taught culinary. It was so well that it no longer stands in portable. It's a real, they transformed it to a traditional high school. It is in a building. It still stands. They've expanded the programs, but he had his hands on that, so I always try to give back. I always remember the life lessons to support others and families. I didn't tell you all as I was speaking, this man defeated death many times. When I was 6 years old, he was diagnosed with colon cancer. By the time I was 7 years old, he was in a hospital. My mother wasn't allowed as a young mother to say the C word. They would whisper the C word. But the beauty is he crossed over on the other side and had conversations, I'm sure, with ancestors and angels. And they told him it was not his time. He could not stay there. He talked about the songs that he heard and the beauty of it and the light. But they told him, you have to go back because you have two sons that will come to the earth. And so by 1977, he was cured. By 79, my brother Lauren Charles Lovely was born. We call him Chuck. And then by 1981, my brother Paul was born. So I know. He walked with spirit. And throughout his lifetime, he had dreams and visions. And so I got that gift of dreams and vision and interpretations from him. He didn't want to be in the pulpit, even though he would travel and tell his testimony. He always helped families, even in the middle of the night, somebody's child got in trouble. He was father to everybody in the neighborhood. They went and get Mr. Lovely to get him out of trouble. So thank you for this opportunity, Yeyefini, and others to partake and just share a little bit about my father.
The warrior. Honoring the warrior spirit. Somebody else want to speak about their warrior? Want to speak?
I brought my father, Alan Leonard DaCosta Jr., who kept me grounded in so many ways, not only through his spirit of just being proud and unconditional about who he was, but allowing me to explore that as well. And really, he was definitely a dreamer. He was a visionary. And I think I got a little piece of that, you know, especially when he transitioned. I feel that I communicate with him more and I hear him more and I feel he's with me in a safe space. Yes, so that was my father. And his father, also Alan Leonard DaCosta, he was a military man in the military in Jamaica, was of tall stature and had a big voice, like my father as well. When you knew when he walked in the room, everyone was silent, and he knew how to get your attention. So I'm definitely honoring his spirit and calling on his name. Yes. And then my mother's father, David Augustus Gibson, who was one of the lead inspectors in Kingston, Jamaica. Another person, if he walked in a room, he could definitely hush a room. And he had a business sense about him, and he was amazing with his hands. Like, he would come home with like scrap wood and like have like a bed made or like a wall cabinet. So he just showed me that there's nothing that we can't do without our hands, you know, that we have power within our hands. And I'm thankful for that. And his wife, my maroon queen, warrior grandmother, yes, Beryl Maud Gibson. This is my mother's mother. And she was definitely a warrior. She didn't let anyone stop her, including her inspector husband. She traveled the world 6 months out of the year. She went all over the world. She was a healer. She took care of people, from babies to the elderly. And then she would go home for 6 months and just chill. And then she would do that again. And growing up, I was like, how does she do that? Like, how does she travel the world for 6 months and then just go home and chill? Like, I want to do that, you know? And then she had 5 children, you know, and she made it work. And, and she never gave up, and she always, even though my grandfather provided for his family, she felt necessary that a woman should also provide. So, you know, she made her own clothing, she taught my aunts and my mother how to make their own clothing, and she was another one where nothing was impossible with her. And I am thankful for what they passed on to me, which seems more in the spirit than when they were here. So I give thanks.
You can see the pride and the love all over your face. You look like a little girl of 9. Christmas morning, just like, oh my God, this is all mine.
Yes, and I'm so thankful. Like, I have a huge family, so even like my shrine is full of pictures. And I'm like, I wanted to bring all of them, but I'm like, no, let me just, and I still have more in my bag. And I'm like, let me just, but I'm thankful because I come from a powerful family. And the more that I give them respect and homage, and I sit with them and I speak with them, that I know that there's nothing or no one that can, you know, stop me, because they carrying me at all times. Thank you.
Nice. You gonna leave us so they can eat?
Yes, definitely.
Call me a porridge.
Yes.
Right there.
I love caramel. I'm banana.
Baba, how you doing?
First of all, I'm honored to be here. Presence of all these warrior empresses. Be honored.
Thank you.
And personally, me, I didn't grow up with my father, so I grew up with all women, right? So I'm glad to be here in the presence of all women. And this warrior empress right here is my grandmother. And
what is her name?
Her name is Joyce Pearl Adams. Joy Pearl Adams. She just transitioned last year, so this is probably last month was her 1-year anniversary since she transitioned. And I said I wanted to come and pay honor to her today. Growing up in the Caribbean, we know that our families, you know, they came to the States, so they left a lot of the kids with their grandparents. So I was fortunate to be raised by this woman. She bringing tears to my eyes because I feel.
Let it flow. Let it flow. It's real. That's love.
And she taught us how to love. And the principles that she brought us up with, being a man, she taught me how to love a woman first of all. So I'm grateful for that. I owe everything to her of who I am right now, as a man, as a husband, as a father. And I'm honored to even say this in front of everybody and pay honor to her. And I know that she is continually doing the work, that we could feel her presence the same way. And I'm glad that we had this opportunity to honor our ancestors, as we know that they carried us through. They continually do the work for us to cut and clear and remove all resistance that's in our way. And through that, I know that this is a powerful thing that we are doing, and I'm grateful to be here and to honor her and to be in the presence of you. I feel honored for that. And that's all I really have to say at this time. And thank you, Dr. Sheila.
Thank you. That is beautiful. Yes. Bye-bye. He's not a talker, so when he talks, I'm like, oh. I remember when you said someone in your family is really trying to
I also need to light a candle too.
Oh, you can give it to me.
even if it's not he's having fun.
They're having fun.
Okay.
He's a community.
I forgot to light the candle too.
No problem. Okay, who wants to go next? Okay. No, that's down there. That in the garden. Lean it on the side. On the side.
These are my paternal grandparents. And in preparing for this, because my ancestors always tell me what to do with these things, they told me they wanted me to focus on the word family. And when I sat and meditated on that, a whole bunch came to me. Beyond them, I did not know the rest of my ancestors, like the great and the great. But my paternal grandparents were with me. I got to involve myself with them, all of my upbringing. But let me tell you about this dynamic duo, and I had to do them together, you see. Mabel J. and Edwin Washington. And I even, I found their wedding invitation, 1921. Wow. But anyway, let me tell you about these two people because they represent, I can feel their DNA running through me. My grandmother was the consummate homemaker. My grandfather was the consummate provider and fighter. They taught me one thing: endurance during chaos. They came through the Depression era. My grandfather established a home for my grandmother, who had 4 children. My grandfather also was self-taught. He was a contractor. He and my father built 3 rooms on my house when my brother was born by themselves. Also, my grandfather helped to create the Dallas chapter of the National Alliance of Black Postal Employees for that. And from that, because my grandfather and my grandmother were, I call them the dynamic duo, because I learned how to do the things to make not only make a home, but to make it lovely with hard times. My grandmother knew how to take old suits, redesign them into suits for her boys. She was like a little tailor. She also knew Latin, and she and my father insisted that when I was a junior in high school that I take Latin, and she wrote me stuff in Latin. That was my grandmother. My grandfather at one time had a Sherman-Williams store. He was an entrepreneur to that. He was, he enabled us to learn about having your own business, starting your own business. And speaking about land, they always had their own home, owned their home on their own land. The most beautiful place in terms, for me, as a little kid, it had a backyard, you know, and they kept it immaculate outside the home. But more importantly, what these two, and my grandfather, but those of you who know me, this is the grandfather who I used to hang around with, and the reason I'm attracted to tools, and I like, and I'm attracted to tools because I would hang around with him like my grandmother, but he showed me how to fix things and told me how to, whenever I called out a repair person, to watch them, and so that whenever I had to call them again, he told me, this was his statement: you can take the money out of this pocket and put it in that pocket. So, and I did that. Took his advice, and I saved myself some money doing that. So that was, I used to hang around him, and he loved fishing. He and my grandmother used to love fishing, going fishing, and my grandfather even went hunting and all that Ogun stuff. But that's the gene that I got from them. But more importantly, what I was so what I was so grateful for is that their values. They had integrity all the time. They fought, and as a result of the way they were and the way my grandfather provided for his family, my father, who was their firstborn, did the same thing for me. So I had 2 generations teaching me, 1, endurance, teaching me 2, never to give up, teaching me 3. My father ended up being the field secretary Southwest of the NAACP during the same time Medgar Evers was the Southern secretary. So during the civil rights time. Yes, yes. And he did not, he talked about the possibility of dying, but he says, I cannot be quiet, you know, and he did. And so that is in me because they provided in all of the chaos, never to give up, never to accept wrong, never to accept the easy way, the work ethic, and to love. Now let me tell you a sweet thing about them. They like to dance. Yes. Whenever we had family gathering, particularly at Christmas time, everybody would do their little dance. Each generation would do their little dance, you know. And so at last they would close it out, and they would dance together. It was so elegant, you know, seeing them dance together. They were wonderful, loving people who valued education and integrity. What we say in Yoruba, iwakweli, that they said that is one of the most important things for us to develop. So this little stuff we're going through now, after seeing what all that they did and went through and was able to endure with grace, I have to do the same thing. I can do no less. So these are why I love them dearly, each one of them.
Ashe.
You're a living example of the integrity as well as that you like to dance. Yeah. When you know she ain't gonna still party, oh, she shuts it down. She doing her look. She be representing. Okay, anybody else want to speak? You don't feel any pressure. Okay. Don't worry if it goes out.
Okay. Allah everyone. This is my, I'm all tears all the time. So this is my tete, my everything. She's my mother's sister. And she was my mother because she raised me from when I was born till about 6 years old. And she is the one that gave me all the love that I have now. She nurtured me and she spoiled me rotten. And she was the matriarch of the family. She never had children, native of the island of Dominican Republic. She never had children, but she was over an abundance of children by her side at all times because all the nephews and nieces and then the children of the nephews and nieces would always gravitate to her because it was her house that the entire family would go to every weekend. And when I was raised with her, I enjoyed all those parties as well. One thing she stood for was honor in a woman's honor. She always used to say, as I got older, I remember other family members saying it as well, that, man will be man and they'll do this and they'll do that and let it be bygones, but never let any man put a finger on you. That's one thing that she always told the women in our family. Don't you ever let any man put a finger on you, because that will be the last time that, he will be in your presence, In other words, have respect for yourself. And she, like I said, Celeste Polanco, her name. May she rest in peace. May the light that she had always carried continue to be with her. Ashe.
Ashe.
Anybody else? You gonna put it on me? Well, if nobody else wants to speak, we can maybe go in and do a couple of songs. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All over the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All over the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All over the world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Shine, 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 shine. Gonna let it shine. Oh yeah, shine, 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 shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine, 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 shine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh yeah, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Shine, 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 shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh yeah, shine, 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 shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine, 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 shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Yes, these are our lights, and we let them shine through us, you know? So it's just awesome. We sing one more that the ancestors like. Give me that old time religion. This is the religion our ancestors sing about. Let us go in the woods, pour libation, and call out our ancestors. That's what they did. And so, give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that. We gotta dance now. We gotta dance. I just clap. I'm sorry, we don't have any drummers. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. It was good for my ancestors. It was good for my ancestors. It was good for my ancestors. And it's good enough for me. Sing it. Give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. It was good for my ancestors. It was good for our ancestors. It was good for my ancestors. And it's good enough for me. Give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. It was good for right, it was good for right, it was good for right, and it's good enough for me. Well, give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. It was, call out your people. It was good for our nine. It was good for our nine. It was good for our nine. That is good enough for me. Well, sing it. Old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me.
Grandma Barrow.
It was good for Grandma Barrow. It was good for Grandma Barrow. It was good for Grandma Barrow. It's good enough for me. Give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. It was good for Tete. It was good for Tete. It was good for Tete. It's good enough for me. Well, give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. sing it by that old bar. Say that you love for me. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Give me that old time religion. It was good for our ancestors. It was good for our ancestors. It's good enough for me. Oh, we did not forget the rituals. Oh, time religion. Oh, time religion. It's good enough for me. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. No work. It's good enough for me. Yeah, coming together. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Well, give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Well, give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Well, give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. If you want to sing it by that old boy, who want to sing it by that old boy, who want to sing it by that old boy, say that you love for me. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Well, give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. Arabara, 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 egongo, arabara, 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 egongo, arabara, arabara, egongo, arabara, arabara, sọ̀rọ̀ àdúpẹ́ o ilé fún wa agbára fún wa inú wa dùn kí ni àwa ṣe lónìí adúpẹ́ fún kọrin adúpẹ́ fún ẹ̀yà wa adúpẹ́ fún gbogbo ohun kí a wá sọ̀rọ̀ lórúkọ ìṣẹ̀dálẹ̀ Áfíríkà adúpẹ́ fún àwọn àríkù kí tọ́jú wa adúpẹ́ nígbà tí a tún lọ sí ilẹ̀ tiwa kí a wá rí ire agbára àlàáfíà. As we venture to our homes, we give thanks to the ancestors for honoring us and that we did not forget the rituals. We give thanks for the presence of all of the ancestors. And the ancestors wanted some gin to take it to the next level. Yeah. And so for that, because gin is something that never spoils. And so whenever we use gin is that anything that we're doing here will not spoil.
Ashe.
And they will always be toasting in their names.
Ashe.
So that's why they wanted some gin, and then they say, yo, Ejife, everything is Irie with us. So thank you, ancestors, for bringing us together, known and unknown souls, bring us together, your children amongst the living, and you all woke up this morning and said, y'all got to meet. So thank you again, and we will see you again next month as we gather and as we ask the world to do the ceremonies for our ancestors. It's very, very important for us to do that. It's not much without any apology. We must do what it is, what it takes for the diaspora to rise, for us to understand that no matter what happened in the Berlin Congress, which cut up Africa, we're still one people. You know, we're not Jamaican, Panamanian, none of that. We are African people who find ourselves in the diaspora, and who, as the things that we spoke here, it was love, commitment, family, integrity.
Never give up.
You know, African love. That's what brings us together. Coming together as a community, building again as we did before. So this little thing that's going on in the politics and the politrics, that's just something for us to shuffle and shift and say, you know what? We need to restructure, and we need to rethink who we are. And get your land. Africa is your home. Buy some, get some. Ashe. This is Where in the World is Yeyefini, and I'll see y'all again next month. Irie.